Welcome to the first lesson for Chapter 5. This is going to look a little different than what we have been doing in the past. So first of all, you do not have a worksheet that has been handed to you ahead of time. All of this is in Teams, and you do need to be watching the videos to understand how to do this. So when you go into Teams for your Chapter 5 assignment, you'll find a worksheet, a Word document that looks like this. First of all, the heading looks different. Everything is on the left side of the screen instead of on either side. This just makes it easier in the Word document. Anytime you see a colon, I'm going to ask that you put your cursor after that and put the information that it indicates. So obviously after name, you will put your name first and last. I've included Weber English 8 for you, but then you need to put period / cohort. So for many of you, that would be 5-1 or 6-2, whatever class period you have me and whichever cohort you are in. And then obviously your date will go here, and I have included the assignment for you, which is called Chapter 5 Comprehension Check Questions. You do need to complete this. The directions, you can probably see already, look different than what we've had in the past, and that first sentence indicates why. Since many have been struggling with ACE answers, we are going to complete our answers in a graphic organizer. Now, before I continue, I want to point out that many of you scored very poorly on your comprehension checks previously. And the reason was many of you gave me only a fragment or only one sentence. If you start your answer with because blank, you can only earn 1 out of 6 points, so that you get the point for the answer. You have to restate the question and put that into your answer to get the point for your topic sentence. We'll talk about that in a little bit. You also needed to include a text detail. Your text detail did not have to be a quote, but it did have to be a specific detail from the chapter. You can't generalize. Some of you are going back to the articles that we read about the Great Depression and some of those other things and generalizing information that's not really happening in the chapter. So you need to be specific to the chapters. And then that next part is explaining it or giving a specific example, and we'll see that in a minute. So let's look at the steps now. We see first, students should underline or circle. It's on the computer, so probably underlining it is going to be easiest. Or highlight will work too. I didn't put that in the directions, but you could. The key words in the question. Then students will fill in the graphic organizer to complete their answers using complete sentences, always complete sentences. And if you're watching this video, you're already completing this step, thank goodness. Watch the videos with Mrs. Weber where she will explain more clearly how to complete these. Now, I will point out that the questions that I am choosing are the points of the novel that people struggle to understand. And that is the point of the video, so that I can help clarify and help you understand the confusing parts of this book. So we're going to take a look at the first question only before we begin to read, and then we'll come to how to answer it once we've read that part. The questions do go in order. So question 1, we see, why is Cassie unhappy about where Big Ma parked the wagon? Seems silly. Why does that matter? And there's a second part. That's the other thing. Sometimes you guys will answer the first question and you completely forget about the other part. We don't want to forget, okay? There's 2 parts to it. And that's actually giving you your second detail. Second question, why did Big Ma park where she did? So before we begin to read that first step, you are going to underline or highlight, or I didn't give you a paper copy, so I guess we can't circle it unless you want to make you can do that on the computer. It just takes a little more work. All right, so take a minute. Look at those questions. What are the key words in the question that's going to help you understand what you need to answer? If you need to pause the video, pause the video. You might have something different, and that's sort of okay as long as you're not way off base. So I underlined Cassie unhappy, because that's going to be part of it. Why is she unhappy? And then the other big part is about where Big Ma parked the wagon and why. Why did she put the wagon where she did? All right, it's time to read. We'll come back to see that in just a minute. Let's turn to page 102. The blue-black shine that had so nicely encircled TJ's left eye for over a week had almost completely faded by the morning TJ hopped into the back of the wagon beside Stacy and snuggled in a corner not occupied by the butter, milk, and eggs Big Ma was taking to sell at the market in Strawberry. I sat up front with Big Ma, still sandy-eyed and not believing that I was actually going. So 2 things in this paragraph. First of all, remember TJ, why does he have a black eye? Remember that argument he got in with Stacy? Yep. He's hopping in their wagon and they're going somewhere. We don't know where yet, but it sounds like Cassie's not usually allowed on this trip. So let's see. The second Saturday of every month was market day in Strawberry. And for as far back as I could remember, the boys and I had been begging Big Ma to take us to it. Stacy had actually gone once, but Christopher John, Little Man, and I had always been flatly denied the experience. We had, in fact, been denied so often that our pestering now occurred more out of habit than from any real belief that we would be allowed to go. But this morning, while the world lay black, Big Ma called, "Cassie, get up, child, if you're gonna go to town with me, and be quiet about it. You wake up Christopher John or Little Man, and I'll leave you here. I don't want them crying all over the place because they can't go." As Jack swept the wagon into the gray road, Big Ma pulled tightly on the reins and grumbled, "Hold on, you, Jack, hold on. I ain't got no time to be putting up with you and TJ's foolishness." Who's Jack? Did you figure it out? I'm not 100% sure if it's a horse or a donkey, but I would guess horse, right? And she's comparing TJ to the horse or the donkey. Okay. TJ, Stacy and I exclaimed together, "He going?" Big Ma didn't answer immediately. She was occupied in a test of wills with Jack. When hers had prevailed and Jack had settled into a moderate trot, she replied moodily, "Mr. Avery come by after y'all was asleep last night wanting TJ to go to Strawberry to do some shopping for a few things he couldn't get at the Wallace store. Lord, that's all I need with all the trouble about is for that child to talk me to death for 22 miles. Now keep in mind, they're in a horse and wagon, not a car. Big Ma didn't need to say any more, and she didn't. TJ was far from her favorite person, and it was quite obvious that Stacy and I owed our good fortune entirely to TJ's obnoxious personality. TJ, however, was surprisingly subdued when he settled into the wagon. I suppose that at 3:30 in the morning, even TJ's mouth was tired. But by dawn, when the December sun was creeping warily upward, shooting pale streams of buff-colored light through the forest, he was fully awake and chattering like a cockatoo. His endless talk made me wish that he had not managed to wheedle his way so speedily back into Stacy's good graces. But Big Ma, her face furrowed in distant thoughts, did not hush him. He talked the rest of the way into Strawberry, announcing as we arrived, "Well, children, open your eyes and take in Strawberry, Mississippi." "Is this it?" I cried, a gutting disappointment enveloping me as we entered the town. Strawberry was nothing like the tough, sprawling bigness I had envisioned. It was instead a sad red place. As far as I could see, the only things modern about it were a paved road which cut through its center and fled northward, away from it, and a spindly row of electrical lines. Lining the road were strips of red dirt splotched with patches of brown grass and drying mud puddles. And beyond the dirt and the mud puddles, gloomy store buildings set behind raised wooden sidewalks and sagging verandas. "Shoot," I grumbled. "It sure ain't nothing to shout about." "Hush up, Cassie," Big Ma said. "You too, TJ. y'all in town now, and I expect y'all to act like it. In another hour, this place will be teeming with folks from all over the county, and I don't want no trouble. As the stores gave way to houses still sleeping, we turned onto a dirt road which led past more shops and beyond to a wide field dotted with wooden stalls. Near the field entrance, several farm wagons and pickups were already parked, but Big Ma drove to the other side of the field where only 2 wagons were stationed. Climbing from the wagon, she said, "Don't seem like too many folks ahead of us. In the summer, I'd have had to come on Friday and spend the night to get a spot like this." She headed toward the back of the wagon. "Stacy, you and TJ stay up there a minute and push them milk cans over here so as I can reach them." "Big Ma," I said, following her, "all them folks up there selling milk and eggs too?" "Not all, I reckon. Some of them got meats and vegetables, quilts and sewing and such. But I guess a good piece of them selling the same as us." I studied the wagons parked at the field entrance, then exclaimed, "Well, what the devil we doing back here then? Can't nobody see us?" "You watch your mouth, girl," warned Big Ma. Then, arranging the milk cans and baskets of eggs near the wagon's edge, she softened her voice and promised, "We'll do all right. I got me some regular customers and they'll check to see if I'm here before they buy." "Not back here, they won't," I grumbled. Maybe Big Ma knew what she was doing, but it made absolutely no sense to me to be so far from the entrance. Most of the other farmers seemed to have the right idea, and I couldn't help but try to make her see the business sense in moving the wagon forward. "Why don't we move our wagon up there with them other wagons, Big Ma? There's plenty of room and we could sell more." "Them's white folks' wagons, Cassie," Big Ma said gruffly, as if it explained everything. "Now hush up and help me get this food out." "Shoot," I mumbled, taking one of the buckets from Stacy. "By the time a body walk way back here, they'll have bunions on their soles and corns on their toes." So we get to pause. There's a break there, and this is our first question. So let's go back to our worksheet, and we can get started on how to complete this question. All right, so now we are going to take a look at this chart. Reminder, you have this the question up here. Why is Cassie unhappy about where Big Ma parked the wagon? Why did Big Ma park where she did? So first we need to start with our green go topic sentence. We're going to restate and answer the question in our topic sentence. So you can put your cursor right in this box. Type it in black. It doesn't need to be green. But we're going to start by restating. So we got to look at those words in the question. So we can see Cassie is unhappy about where Big Ma parked the wagon. Am I done? That is a complete sentence. But if we look over here, we have restate and answer. Why? Why is she upset? Couple of details you could pick. By the time they get back here, we're going to have bunions on their soles. She's talking about if we're way up there, we could sell more. What else? Does she understand the whole circumstances? She doesn't get it, does she? I'm just going to put she doesn't understand why they have to park in the back. You can put something different. I'm giving you an example so that we can try to understand what I'm looking for. All right, so now we need to write a transition phrase that leads into your first reason or detail. So we covered transition words last year. We could go something as simple as first. We could do, for example, one reason, something like that to begin our first detail. You can choose what you'd like. You can have what I also like to call flowing phrases, which aren't those concrete transitions, but it's something that's going to move you into your information. So you need to decide what is your first reason or detail that you're going to include here about why she doesn't understand why they parked where they did. So I want to put something about them having to park. I just said that they parked in the back. So you got to get to watch Mrs. Weber's thought process. You think it through too. Fill yours out. Oh, let's go with, for example, Cassie thinks they won't sell as much. Parked in the back. So only need to have one sentence there. The next one, write an example, which I sort of maybe gave up there, and or explanation sentence or sentences for your reason or detail. Depending on your question, sometimes you're going to have a couple of reds filled in here. How can I explain this detail? Cassie thinks they won't sell as much parked in the back. The wagons before them may be selling the same products as Big Ma. Cassie believes that no one will want to walk back to where they're parked to buy milk and eggs. Okay, now we need another transition, another detail. I feel like I'm done, but did we answer both questions? Why did Big Ma park there? So instead of one of those concrete transitions, I'm going to use a subordinating conjunction. I'm going to say, however. I'm going to contrast that idea. Big Ma parked in the back because, why? Why do they have to park back there? That is where I'm trying to think of the right word. I'm thinking patrons, but those are the people that buy. What's the black sellers are required to park. How can I explain this? Due to segregation, the white sellers were given, what's the word? Priority or preference, the prime parking spots away from the black sellers, not sellers. Does this feel complete? I think so. Let me reread it. Now, each box has something different, but this would actually be when we're writing our answers out in a paragraph on your paper, you would actually put these all together, not separated. I'm going to reread the whole answer and see if it makes sense. Cassie is unhappy about where Big Ma parked the wagon because she doesn't understand why they have to park in the back. For example, Cassie thinks they won't sell as much parked in the back. The wagons before them may be selling the same products as Big Ma. Cassie believes that no one will want to walk back to where they're parked to buy milk and eggs. However, Big Ma parked in the back because that is where the black sellers are required to park. Due to segregation, the white sellers were given the prime parking spots away from the sellers. Now, this is going to conclude our lesson for today. You could have completed this chart the same as I did. In the future, I'm going to have you do your own, but you could also use this as a model. And that's my main reason for filling this chart in with you today, is that I wanted to give you an idea of what this needs to look like. And I wanted to do one completely with you. So you might just be using that as a sample to go, oh, that's what she's looking for. And we'll catch up tomorrow. We'll take a look at some of those other questions. Some of them I'll try to guide you through, but I won't be filling in every question completely like that, but I might be helping you along here or there, okay? And I will see you next time.